welcome to today's live. Really happy to be doing the final part of our Amazon Lex project today. I think it's been a long journey. We're finally at part 5 of this Amazon Lex chatbot series, and let's get straight into it. I am very excited to be with you right now. I wonder where you are at in the world. So I'd love to know. Please add it to the chat if you're happy to share. Otherwise, if you'd like to tune in incognito mode, that is all good with me as well. All right, here is my usual setup. So you'll see that I always have my AWS console on the left-hand side of my screen. And today on the right-hand side of my screen, I thought I'd show you that this is where you can find the project yourself in the community. So when you're logged into the Nextweek community, and for anyone tuning in that hasn't joined the Nextweek community yet, you can find a link for that in the description box. But once you're here, you're in the All AWS Projects page. You can find the project by clicking into here, project number 3, Amazon Lex Chatbot Part 5. Click into that. And there's going to be a very handy link that just says start your project here. So let's go for that. Boom. Okay, so you're in. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see like the project steps and everything a bit clearer. But yeah, goodness. Today, we are doing, part 5 of our Amazon Lex project. And when it comes to what to expect, we have 3 services we'll be doing today. There's Amazon Lex, AWS Lambda, which is actually optional, so you don't have to use it. And then the final one is AWS CloudFormation, which is for you if you decide to take on the secret mission. So your 30-second intro is that, we've been using Amazon Lex from parts 1 all the way through to part 4 now. But building on, the very same chatbot, our BankerBot, in part 5, you'll be creating a new intent that lets you transfer money between your accounts. And you can also learn about AWS CloudFormation to help you deploy resources in literally seconds. So as a little preview about what you're going to get to do. So here, I think from parts 1 to 4, you would have seen, the check balance intent here. But now in part 5, they can now say, hey, let me transfer money from my checking account to my savings account, and this is how much I want to transfer. So a very handy intent indeed, I'd say. I think transferring accounts is probably a very well-used intent if you are going to be building like a banking app, that's for sure. All right, so I will be skipping through these parts since we've covered them before in parts 1 to part 4. I think today we can jump straight into the project. And as usual, I will be using the option 2 out of our 2 options. Instead of using like the low touch guide that, makes you figure out some parts on your own, we're just going to go for the very beginner friendly step-by-step guide, which is option 2, our high touch version. So while that loads, this project is absolutely free for you to do. And please trust me when I say that you don't have to have AWS experience to be able to complete this as well. So in part 5, please remember to delete all your resources at the end of the day. And in part 5, we start by getting ready to document. And you would have seen this again from parts 1 through to part 4, but documentation really is one of the best ways for you to store your learnings, especially given that you need to delete all of your resources at the end of the day. Because I think when you're sharing your work with an employer, it's going to be very handy to show them this is evidence of what I've done, instead of just having a yarn about it, for them to actually see this is the services that I've used. Here are the errors that I've run into. It builds a very compelling case on how you have created something or you've solved problems. And it's also a really great medium for you to share your reflections and your learnings as well. Okay, to do your documentation, let's click on this handy little link that takes you to a Canva template. And here we are. That was fast, wasn't it? You won't be able to edit the template itself. Okay, this template is for everyone. So everyone, we get to make a copy of this template and edit that copy. First thing, this is how you assert your claim over your copy. Add your name to the title. So what I did was I clicked file here, and then you can immediately edit the title of your document. So this is Net's documentation for Amazon Lex Chatbot Part 5. Very well. And when you're here, now that you have your own copy, this is yours. You can absolutely delete that first page. You won't be needing that. And in your title page, you can just like as a warm up, add your name to your full name as well, if you like. As a warm up, if you're not very familiar with Canva and you're curious about how it works. But I think before you move on to step 1 of this project today, please make sure that you check out the very last page of this documentation template, because this last page shows you errors. So an error I ran into was, etc., etc. You can delete this text box once you actually are ready to talk about an error you've run into. But yeah, I think documenting errors is absolutely key to show your problem-solving skills. And it can be very hard to recall at the end of a project what kind of errors you run into. So please keep the slide in mind. And when you run into an error, immediately copy, take some screenshots, put it in here, and then you can write your reflections. And trust me, it'll be much better to do it in the moment than retrospectively. Okay, now I'm going to jump back into our project steps. And in our project steps, here we are. I'm going to start with setting up a new Lex chatbot and your first few intents. Yeah, so we're going to pick up where we left off in the last project by creating a new BankerBot. All right, so by the time you reach part 5, you've already created BankerBot 4 times now. But please don't fret if you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do all of it all over again. 1, it's a lot faster the second time round. 2, you don't actually need to do every single step from the first 4 parts of your project. I would say some of the steps are optional, and you'll see them very soon. Cool. But yeah, first things first, let's set up that chatbot. Okay, so we are going to Amazon Lex. You can find it by using the search bar. And yeah, let's get straight into it. Now I am in Amazon Lex. You are creating your BankerBot. Okay, cool. Under bots, create your bot and create a blank bot. Oh my goodness. You're like, this is my 5th time doing this. I can do this in my sleep. If so, good on you. If not, there are always these helper text step-by-step guides for you. So for the description, we'll enter, this BankerBot will help your customers check their balance and make transfers. Yeah, we will be creating a role so that this, BankerBot, if you want to connect it with AWS Lambda, it can connect with AWS Lambda. And, it's not subject to the COPPA, but what you can do next, if you can remember, is next you'll be choosing your bot's voice. So I always pick Ruth. Ruth is my gal. Ruth is my ride or die. And when you're done, click done, and they're going to start building your bot right away. So what I find quite cool is that the moment you finish creating your bot, it just takes you straight into the intent page. So you never have to go like click intents, create new intent. Like this page is already up and ready for you. Like, let's go. So we're going to just create our first intent, which is called the welcome intent. And I'm just going to make sure that the step-by-step guide is keeping up to where we're at. So yes, let's create our first intent. Okay, the welcome intent. And on the description, welcoming a user when they say hello. That's absolutely what we're doing. And in the sample utterances, I think the thing with really zooming in your page is that sometimes you can't find some of the buttons. It's a bit of a shame, but as you just like exit out, do you see that? Did you see that switch? I saw that. So, okay, let me just zoom out one more time. Just like that, the button for plain text has appeared. If I zoom in again, it's gone. Oh, wait, it was there all along. I just didn't know that this was a toggle. Okay, well, in that case, that means I can stay zoomed in. Plain text is available for me now. And you can just copy and paste your utterances into the plain text field. And yeah, let's get straight into the closing response. In our closing response, we are telling our user, "Hi, I'm Bibi the banking bot. How can I help you today?" Save the intent and start building. You will notice that I am very quick to get to the save intent and build phase, because when you click build, you will always have to wait a little bit. Building is definitely the part that takes the longest between save intent, building, and testing. And yeah, whenever you're building and you have nothing to do, this is a good reminder to get up from your chair and have a little stretch. It's also a great reminder to do a little dance if you're a dancer. Or you can sip your tea. My coaster floated up with my cup. I'm sorry, I just had to share that. That's crazy. Okay. There we go. Okay, it's done building now. And we can now test our bot. So when we're testing our bot, I think the key thing to know is just to make sure your bot is saying the right utterances. It's saying the right responses to your input. In this case, our welcome intent is designed to respond to when the user says hi or hello. So in this case, let's just type in hello as a test. And yeah, our BankerBot is responding perfectly. So it says, "Hi, I'm Bibi the banking bot. How can I help you today?" Very nice. So with that done, let's move on to the next thing, which is managing the fallback intent. So again, you probably would have been doing this since part 1, but we're going to do it again. We're going to manage our fallback intent. And when it comes to managing the fallback intent, the biggest thing that you're just trying to make is making that error message very, very user-friendly, as a reminder. So in our message panel, in our closing response panel, under this little toggle for you to define the message, we're just going to copy in this predefined message here. Okay, nice. And once it's copied in, you'll notice another toggle at the bottom that's called variations. Now, all you have to do is open that variations and copy in the next one. And you can even copy in another one. Just add another variation since there's a space for it. Let's just add another one. And, maybe this one can say, "Oh no, I have no clue what you're saying." Sad face. And just like that, welcome intent is done in terms of your customization of it for this project. So again, save your intent and quickly smash that build button so you can just do a little stretch while it is building. Awesome. Now, while this is building, can you remember what the next step will be after you finished your fallback intent? Would you happen to remember? This is something that you've also had to do since part 2 of the project. Suspense. All right, it's built now. Let's test it and make sure that it is going to repeat to you or respond to you with the correct fallback intent message if I say something a bit strange. So let's say, I'm going to say, "What's up?" Yeah, it doesn't have a clue what I'm saying. "What's up" isn't exactly in its dictionary as a greeting. And as a heads up, if you think this is going a bit too quickly, "Oh, this is a bit too fast, can you please slow down?" Please know that a detailed live for all 4 parts before this one is in our YouTube channel as well. And in those lives, I will go through every single one of these steps a lot slower. For part 5, we're going to zoom through these setup steps so we can get straight to the meat of the project. Okay, so from part 2, what we did first was we created a custom slot type for the account type. So you can just find that here. In the sidebar, head down to slot types and add a slot type and use a blank slot type. So when you're entering your blank slot type, creating a blank slot type, add account type as the name, and then choose add. So this will bring up the page for creating a slot type. So let's just restrict it to the slot values and add. That will be doing checking, savings, and credit as our slot type values. Okay, perfect. What are some synonyms for credit? Do you remember? American Express. So here we are adding a few synonyms. So, the synonyms are American Express, Visa, credit card, MasterCard, Amex. That's 5. That's perfect. Okay, don't forget to click on add value here and then save the slot type. Very good. So now that you've saved your slot type, you can create the check balance intent. And the check balance intent is all about returning to the user, hey, your bank balance is $40.50 if you're wanting to check your credit balance, your savings balance, your checking balance. So let's head to the sidebar to find our intents page, and let's create our next intent. Let's add an empty intent and call that one check balance. Alrighty, let's get into check balance right now and click add. So we can just add our description now for our check balance intent. And the description today is intent to check the balance in the specified account type. That's a pretty straightforward and formal way to say it. Cool. And in our sample utterances, now that I know this is just a toggle, I can click on this, switch it to plain text, and paste the utterances straight away. So you don't need to type it out, one by one. Just paste it all in. And then we can now connect that slot type with our check balance intent by adding it here. So in slots optional, add a slot, click on add slot here, and then in name, we're going to enter account type and add a prompt for it too. So the prompt is basically, So the prompt, let me do that one more time. So the name for this slot is called account type. And the prompt for that is, for which account would you like your balance? So what's happening here is if your BankerBot doesn't have the information, it doesn't know what account type it is trying to check, it is going to use that prompt to ask the user, okay, so which account are you trying to check the balance for? And that's where the prompt gets real useful. So under slot type, let's choose the slot type that we want, which is called account type, literally the thing that we set up just before. Click add. So you might remember that we mentioned the intent should also check for the user's birthday. So let's create the slot for that too. So let's create a slot just for the user's birthday. Add slot. And then in the slot name, let's select date of birth. For the slot type, we're going to go for Amazon date. And then the prompt for that. So how are we going to prompt our user that we want their birthday? We're going to say, for verification purposes, what is their date of birth? Give it to me. All right, click add, and let's save the intent right away. Build. Okay, now we build. Building is always such a journey, I swear. It always keeps me in anticipation, that's for sure. All right, so while we're waiting for that to build, I hope you've been having a good day. What was the last meal you had? Add it to the chat. I would love to know. I just had banana and peanut butter on toast. That was delicious. Okay, great. Oh, perfect timing. That was built now. So let's test it out. In our top right-hand corner, we're going to click test. And let's test out our chatbot. So would you remember what were the utterances that we wanted to test? This would have been your 4th time entering those utterances now, so I hope you remember. We are just wanting to ask, check my balance. For which account would you like your balance? It is asking the exact prompt that we've put in for the account type. Amazing. So let's just say I want to check my credit account. And then it's asking the perfect prompt as well to check for my date of birth. So it is doing exactly as we expected. It's basically just passed the test. Great job. If you were to put in a random birthday, you will notice that it's going to finish with a very unfulfilling response called intent check balance is fulfilled. But that's unfulfilling. Is that a pun? It might be a pun. And the reason for that is because we haven't connected it with AWS Lambda. If you connect it with AWS Lambda, then once you pass your birthday, your Amazon Lex chatbot will have a chat with AWS Lambda and say, hey, this is the user's birthday and this is the account type that they want to check. And then AWS Lambda will return that actual bank account figure that Amazon Lex will push out to you in this conversation. Now, in the interest of time, I think today we will be skipping the steps that are not required because we do not need to have that connection with AWS Lambda to be able to move on to the meaty parts of today's project. So I will be skipping this for now. But if you'd like, there are the links to it right here. You can connect your chatbot with AWS Lambda here, and then you can set up the next intent, the follow-up check balance intent, which is what part 4 of the project was all about. Cool beans. Now, the next intent that we will create is the transfer funds intent. How can we get the chatbot to help us transfer money between our separate accounts? Now, think back to when was the last time you transferred money across your bank accounts. It probably is pretty recent, is my guess, which really goes to show how practical, setting up this wide range of intents is. Okay, so let's create the new intent. We're entering new territory now. So I'm very, very excited to do this part with you. First, what we're going to do is we're going to head to the intents page, and then we can exit out of this test window for our chat. We won't be using it at the moment. And let's add a new intent. As you might guess, it is going to be an empty intent as well. And let's call that the transfer funds intent. So transfer funds. Great. Jack says, hi, first time here. Wow, I'm so glad we got to meet in this live. I have to say, though, to meet at part 5 of this series is quite... I'm wishing you all the best. If it gets a bit confusing, let me know. But just know that you're now joining part 5 of this 5-part series on creating your own chatbot on Amazon Lex. Good to have you here. Good to have you here, Jack. A warm welcome from me. And moving on to, setting up our transfer funds intent. First things first is add your description. I almost missed that, but you didn't see it. So add your description. It is to help users transfer funds between bank accounts. All right. And then in the sample utterances, we already have a prepared list of utterances to expect from our user, which we can paste right in here. So, switch to the plain text mode of your sample utterances page and then paste it here. There we go. Now, it might be really tempting to just move on, but since we're entering new territory right now, let's actually read through some of these utterances so we get a feel of what we're really doing. So again, remember, transfer funds is all about helping your users transfer money between accounts, from savings to checking to credit, credit to savings, or whatever mix you want. So what kind of questions would the user ask the chatbot in order to achieve that goal? Those are the utterances. So in this case, one utterance is, can I make a transfer? Another utterance is, I want to transfer funds. Another utterance is, I want to make a transfer. See, like these utterances literally are saying the exact same thing, but just in different combinations of words. And it is really important to define a varied range of utterances, I feel, so that your chatbot can capture all the different ways a user might want to ask for the same thing. If it doesn't cover, the way that a user might ask a question, it might just throw them the error message, and that's not going to be a very satisfying experience. So, now that we've pasted our sample utterances, we can move on to the slot. So again, remember, slots are like fields in a form. In this case, you're telling your chatbot, "Hi, I'd like to transfer money between my accounts." Say we are doing this through a form. What do you think will be the questions in that form? So, hi, John. John says part 5 history is being made. It sure is. It sure is. And it's good to have you here. What will be the fields in that form? For example, now that I know someone wants to transfer money between their accounts, some fields I might ask are, okay, from which account do you want to transfer from? Okay, cool. You want to transfer from the checking account? Okay, from checking to where? What is your destination account? And then how much money are you actually transferring? Just think about all of like the little fields you almost need to define when you're transferring money between your own banks, between your own bank accounts. So in this case, we're going to add a new slot called source account type. I'm going to click on add slot over here. Great button. Amog says, hi, Natasha. Saying hi back to you, Amog. It's good to see you. And the name for that slot, it is source account type. You know what? I'm going to be a bit sneaky and copy this straight through. And the prompt will be, which account would you like to transfer from? Oh. Which account would you like to transfer from? And what kind of slot is that? If I say I'm going to transfer from my checkings account, is that a date? Is that a number? Is that I don't know, what are the other slot types? Is that a city? No, not really. So that's why the custom slot type that we've defined earlier, account type, is so handy, because what we're putting through is an account type, and very unlikely for AWS to have that built in already. All right, let's add that, and let's add another slot for the target account type. We have one half of the puzzle solved. Let's solve the other half. The target account type can have a prompt of, which account are you transferring to? What is the money's destination? Where is it going? And again, the slot type should be account type, because when you say, oh yeah, the money's going to get transferred to my savings account, savings is an account type. It's not like a city, country, date, email address, none of that. It's an account type. So let's add that too. Yeah, I think one interesting thing to notice, take a little pause here, just notice how both slots have the exact same slot type. It's totally possible for multiple slots to share the same slot type within an intent. So it's super important that you're using the clear slot names to differentiate them, within the intent. So now, because our slot names are very, very clear, I know exactly which slot is about, oh, money is coming from this account, and money is going to this account. All right. Oh, before we move on, let's add another slot. I almost forgot about this, and I mentioned it just previously. What is the third piece of information you need in order to do a transfer between your accounts? The third piece of information is how much money you're transferring. In this case, this is called your transfer amount. And let's put that through and add a prompt of, how much money would you like to transfer? For your slot type, let's say Amazon number. Yeah, because I would say how much you're transferring is probably a number. Add that in. Boom, it's added to your slot list. How good is that? There we go. Transfer amounts right here now. Love it. Okay, so now that our slots are defined, we have all the information. We know what is the information that we want. We can now add confirmation prompts. So confirmation prompts are typically the are typically prompts that your chatbot will say back to you to be like, are you sure you want to do that? Just making sure you want to do that. So if the user confirms the intent, the bot will move on to fulfillment. If the user declines, they're like, oh, wait, no, that's not what I want to do. Then the bot responds with a decline response so that it doesn't go through with fulfilling the intent. Raf, hey, Raf, you're in so good to see you. Raf says, great work done, Natasha. The project guide is easy to follow. Thank you. I'm glad it is. I will be starting project 3 today. Power to you. You are exactly, I think, the perfect day for starting part 3, knowing that, part 5 of project 3, knowing that part 5, the final part of project 3 is, the video for that is coming out right now. All right, so let's customize our confirmation now. And we will have 2 ways to customize our confirmation. First is the confirmation prompt, like, can I go ahead? And then the decline response says, oh, okay. Just confirming with you that we've declined it. We will stop with this intent, if the user says, no, I don't want to do this. So in terms of the confirmation prompt panel, we will say, got it. We will say, got it. So we are transferring $50 from credit to savings. This is an example. Can I go ahead with the transfer? And then if they say, yeah, go ahead with the transfer, you'll move on to fulfillment. If they say, no, sorry, don't go ahead with that transfer, then the bot will say the decline response. Our decline response is, the transfer has been canceled. Cool. Now we scroll down to closing response. And closing response says, the transfer is complete. $50 should now be in your checking account, whatever the target account type was mentioned or whatever the transfer amount was mentioned by the user. So now we're ready for testing. So let's go straight into it. We're going to save our intent, click save, and then build it right away. Here we go again. Let's go. Let's go. So now we are building our chatbot. Okay, we're doing our handy little waiting time while this building is in progress. We will trust the process, trust that it'll work. And in the meantime, oh, very cool. In the meantime, I'm gonna make sure I didn't skip any documentation steps. I honestly get so paranoid that I've skipped one, but I haven't. Phew, that's good. I did not skip a documentation step today. That is great. And now that building is done, we can test it. So let's test it out now. Let's have a normal conversation with our bot, starting with hello. And let's say I'd like to transfer funds. Do you think it's going to pick up on that? Do you think it will understand my... It did understand my utterance. Very cool. And it says, the bot says, which account would you like to transfer from? Which one should I choose from today? I think I'll go for checking. How much money would you like to transfer? Ooh, interesting. So it's asking me for the transfer amount slot, and 50. Ooh, there's an invalid bot configuration. No usable messages given the current slot, session attribute, and request attribute set. That's an error, that's for sure. So let's try to troubleshoot this error together. So if you're seeing this error, right, okay, I am also surprised by this error. I haven't actually seen this before. So if you'd like to put your suggestions in the chat, we can totally do that. But in the meantime, what I'm going to make sure I do is make sure I take a screenshot of this error and put that in my documentation template, right? Because we need to make sure we are documenting all parts of our project experience, including the errors. So here is the screenshot of my error. I'm going to put that in here, make that look cute. And I ran into an error I ran into was An error I ran into was the error message invalid bot configuration, no usable messages given the current slot. Said session attribute and request given the current slot, session attribute and request attribute set. So first, I'm going to unpack this error message. What does this error message actually say? This error message is trying to tell me that my input for the amount of money for the chatbot's prompt, that my response to the chatbot's prompt was invalid given my setup of my transfer funds intent, you know. Interesting. So it's trying to tell me that my response to the my response being 50, by the way, what I said was 50, to the chatbot's prompt, which was how much money would you like to transfer, was invalid. Why is that? If you have any suggestions, pop it in the chat. But usually when I see this error, the first thing I'm going to do is, what did it register when I typed in 50? The first thing you can do is click on inspect and have a look at the values that it's picked up from us. In this case, I'm just going to minimize this so you can see this. Oh, in this case, there's nothing that's been picked up. And I think it's because this error has been triggered, so it's reset the chatbot for us, maybe. But thing number 2 that I found a bit suspicious is, do you see how it says our chatbot is trying to tell us, the first prompt was from which account would you like to transfer from? And then it goes straight to how much money would you like to transfer? I would say it should have asked me the second question being, which account would you like to transfer to? Remember that second prompt? That second prompt in terms of what is our destination account? I think that should have been the second question it asked me, but instead it actually jumped straight to how much money, which I think is quite confusing. So I'm going to have a look at that. And you can troubleshoot this by, let's go into the slots panel. Is this where something's happened? In the meantime, someone in the chat has asked, good work, Natasha, thank you. I am asking if I have finished my documentation with Canva, where will I save or download it? So where you can save it is by heading to that share button. So do you see that share button here? You can click on that share button and then click on download. Oops, I don't think you can see that. Sorry, let me just do a quick swap. Once you click on the share button, you can click on download. And then from here in file type, switch it to PDF standard and then click download. And just like that, it's going to download as a PDF document with all of the pages of your documentation template. So that's how you do that. All right, I'm going to head straight back into our project. And I'm going to have a look at maybe our slots. It says source account type. This looks correct. There is target account type. Do you see what I'm seeing? Do you see what I'm seeing? Oh, Keep Curry says, thank you. You're so welcome. Ask any other questions you might have. But do you see what I'm seeing on the screen? Look at that. Required for this intent is not checked. I have a feeling it should be required, shouldn't it? I must have made a little error by not ticking that box or accidentally unchecking that box when I was setting up the slot, which is why they didn't ask me for my target account type. Now, they definitely should have asked me that, so let's make sure it's required. And then I'm going to take a screenshot of this as a step that I've taken to try troubleshoot my error. And once you do that, paste that in your error page, because this is going to be useful for my documentation later. And now that that's done, you will again have to save your intent. And again, click build. So we are going to be building this one more time. Thank you so much for your patience and waiting with me. Let's build this bot one more time. One more time. Let's do that. Let's go. I really do hope that was a solution. While it's building, I can quickly just put my screenshots into frames, tidy up my documentation while I'm at it. I feel like this frame fits nicely with what I just did here. So I'm going to do that. And, this can just sit here as well. This works. And this is looking a bit full now, my page. So I am going to just change the title of that, to error. And then later on, I can just fill in all of the details in here. But yeah, I hope that demonstrates to you that you can always customize your Canva template, your documentation template. You don't have to stick to all of the little, I guess, like the preset boundaries given by the template. Let's test our chatbot now. I really hope it works now. That was genuinely an error I've never seen before. So I was like, oh, that was a bit unfamiliar. But now that we have made sure that the target account type is required, I think our issue should be solved. So let's find out. So first, I'm going to say hello to my chatbot. Let's start off friendly. Hi, I'm BB the banking bot. How can I help you today? Transfer funds, please. Which account would you like to transfer from? Checking. There we go. It's asking us the destination account now. So that's good news. Which account are you transferring to? Credit. How much money would you like to transfer? Let's say $50. It's working now, isn't it? Oh, that's satisfying. That's very, very satisfying. Let me take a screenshot of our final result now that the error was resolved. Paste that in here. Can I go ahead with the transfer? Yeah, sure. The transfer is complete. $50 should now be available in your credit account. There we go. I think that confirms that our transfer funds intent was a raging success. We've added all of this already. Perfect. Look at this. We have the exact same responses as our step-by-step guide, which is great. And yeah, screenshot your conversation with your chatbot. Make sure your screenshot includes your chatbot's confirmation prompt, which is the got it. So we are, etc. And bonus points if you use an utterance with slot values. Oh, can I transfer amount to? This is great. I mean, why not? Why not we try that now? Why not we try to pass slot values within our utterance? Can I Oh, that is terrible typing. Can I transfer $50 to my credit account? That worked. It says, which account would you like to transfer from? So it's trying to fill in that last piece of information. Savings. Got it. So we are transferring 50. Yeah. The transfer is now complete. Great work. So let's take a screenshot of the successful conversation with our chatbot, and let's paste that into our documentation template. So let's copy that in. Success. And let's paste that into our documentation template. Make sure you head to the correct slide. Our slide will be more slots. And let's put that in here. Oh, not a bad looking screenshot. I think this works pretty well. And yeah, let's fill in the prompts. I think we're ready to fill in the prompts. They always tell you, add your screenshot to the frame and fill in the prompts. Slots are, it's making me repeat what are slots. So slots are pieces of information that my chatbot needs in order to fulfill an intent. The final intent for my chatbot was transfer funds, which will help the user transfer money between bank accounts. For this intent, I had to use the same slot type twice. This is because the transfer funds intent involved two different accounts. The source account, i.e. the account that we are transferring money from, and the target account, i.e. the account that the money will land in. I also learned how to create confirmation prompts. Do we remember what confirmation prompts mean? Let's try to explain it here. Which are prompts designed for the chatbot to confirm the user's intention to carry out the transfer, to carry out the intent. In this project, a confirmation prompt was used for the chatbot to confirm that the user is wanting to transfer a specific amount of money between two of their bank accounts. That was exactly what the confirmation prompt was doing, which is great. And I think that is our documentation all done for this one. So now, before we wrap up this project, there is a cool feature shout out to give out. Arena says, my first experience with project starts with this number 5. Wow, you're jumping into the deep end of the pool, I have to say. So good on you for sticking around. Thanks so much for the error, as it is the valuable way to learn troubleshooting, especially for a newbie like me. I agree. I feel like the moment you see errors, you're almost forced to understand the different components of your solution, of what you are doing, so that you can find the source of that error. Very, very satisfying feeling when you solve that error too. So thank you, Arena. Thank you so much for the lovely comment. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Now, for our cool feature shout out, we are going to check out conversation flows. So we can scroll to the very top of this page and find conversation flow tucked in here. I don't know why they tried to hide this feature, because it is so cool. It is basically showing you in a very visual way an example of how this conversation could go. In this case, what were the utterances that we put in? It will pick one out from that list, and then it will also go through all of the different things that you've defined, like all of the slots, the confirmation prompts, fulfillment, closing responses, all of the different components of your chatbot, pulled into an example conversation. I absolutely love this because it is such a nice, visual way to see what an example conversation could look like before you need to go through the save, build, and test. And the cool thing about it is it also shows you, in ghost form, parts of your conversation that hasn't been set up, but you could set up. It's almost like showing you the different opportunities you could explore with the Lex chatbot. Because even though we're already in part 5, we're in the final part of this project, there are actually a lot of things that you can still add to this chatbot that hasn't been covered yet. fulfillment updates, success response, failure response, timeout response. It really opens your eyes to just how customizable a chatbot could be. And also, if you're creating a chatbot, this conversation flow is a good hint on like, oh, by the way, you should think about this use case, or you should think about this certain scenario. So I absolutely love it. I love this feature so much. All right. Next feature to shout out today is the Visual Builder, which I think is amazing. If you click on Visual Builder at the bottom, ta-da! You will see a very visual way to set up your entire chatbot, and I would say this is very much great for those visual learners that thinks in diagrams and graphs. But I will also say that, probably Visual Builder is easier to use if you've already built a chatbot once and you're very familiar with how these parts interact with each other, because there isn't a lot of helper text, you might notice, in the Visual Builder. It's almost designed for people that know exactly what all of this means and they're just wanting to connect things very, very quickly. If you're very new and you want to see some helper text, see some examples, that's where the editor mode is very, very helpful. Oh, no, let's not leave without saving. Yeah, so look at that, a very visual representation of the intent you've built. In the future, you could use the Visual Builder to build your own intent from scratch. It takes a bit of time to get used to, but it is a fun way to create chatbots for sure. Now, to finish off, we will just delete our resources. So how would you delete your BankerBot, the bot you've created today? How would you delete your Lambda function, if you've done those optional steps, as well as the Lambda function's log files? Again, if you've done those optional steps. Well, I haven't done those optional steps. I'm sorry. So all I have to do is I just have to delete the BankerBot itself. So to delete the BankerBot, all we have to do is we have to click on bots at the very top. I'm not going to save this actually. I'm just going to leave since I'm deleting this bot anyway. So I can just click leave. And then to delete a bot, you have to select that little circle next to its name. And under actions, delete. Let's delete it. Let's save our coin. Do not accidentally get charged, please. Please don't accidentally get charged for this project if you leave this BankerBot lying around. So now that you've clicked delete, you will see that there's a progress bar at the top, and almost instantly it tells us that the bot has been deleted already. It's already gone from the list. It's all done. It's all done. Give yourself a pat on the shoulder. You have just finished the main part of part 5 of this project. What? That was so good. All right, so these are some helper text we're going to scroll through. This is helper text if you don't know how to delete some of your resources. But, we've just successfully deleted the BankerBot, so we're okay. Raph gives me a laughing face. I'm glad you're tuning in and laughing with me. All right. Now, this is optional. We're heading into another optional part of this project, but since we're here, why not do this together? There is a secret mission in this project, to kind of conclude on our journey with Amazon Lex Chatbot, called CloudFormation deployment. So you might be wondering, we have done that setup part for our chatbot so many times, right? We did like parts 1 to 4 so many times. What if you could do it even faster, without you having to do all of that setup manually? Could you? Could you do that? The answer is yes, you can, using a service called AWS CloudFormation. So this service, by the way, is an incredibly, incredibly powerful service. Think of it as almost like a packaged way to deploy your resources in just seconds instead of you having to manually do it one by one. So the formal definition for AWS CloudFormation is that it is a service that gives you an easy way to create and set up your resources. It is an infrastructure as code service. Infrastructure as code is an absolute keyword as well in the world of cloud computing. So please give it like a bit of special attention. But yes, infrastructure as code service, meaning you will create a CloudFormation template. that will describe all the resources you want to create and their dependencies as a code file. So literally in your code, you can be like, I want to create a BankerBot. I want to create this intent. I want to create this intent. I want to create this custom slot. You can just define it all in code, in a piece of code. Then you just upload that code, and then AWS pretty much creates those resources based on what you've defined in that code. So now, instead of like clicking around in your console, you're deciding, you're telling AWS this is what I want to create using code. And the outcome is very, very similar, which we're about to see now. So here is the CloudFormation template we'll be using today. Just click on it. It downloads right away, so you can head to the next step, which is to open the file and give it a read. Okay, so let's open the file. Let's give it a read. Next with BankerBot. And when you're giving it a read, you might be like, oh my gosh, that is so many words, and it can be quite a bit, but you can always find some keywords that kind of gives you hints on, oh, this is what the CloudFormation template is saying. For example, Lexbot. What could that be defining? Yep, you guessed it. It is defining that I want to create a Lex chatbot, or like just a bot using Amazon Lex. And it has, look at that, slot types, checking, savings, credit, synonyms for credit. Literally what we've defined manually, now defined as code. Isn't that crazy cool? And then intent, fallback intent. There's a message. Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding. Literally things that we have copied and pasted manually, again, just as code. Utterances, now all defined as pieces of code. It is so cool to see just how literally every single component that we've had to define manually is now defined all in one place in a single file. Just how slick is that? Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy this CloudFormation template and see it at work. So how you're going to do that is you will find CloudFormation in your AWS console. So let's look for CloudFormation. Let's click on that. And to deploy the code, what we'll do is we'll create a stack. So we'll click on Create Stack here. And create a stack with new resources. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose an existing template. Calling out that I've made a typo here. Choose an existing template. And what was our template? What did it look like? It was a file. So it wasn't a URL. It wasn't in Git. It was a file that we can upload straight away. So let's upload that right now. So it was called nextWithBankerBot.yaml. There we go. It's uploaded very well. And let's click Next. So now you get to even define a name for the stack. And you can enter, nextWithBankerBot plus your name, which for myself is Natasha. And your stack name must be unique across the entire region. So, if it wasn't unique, it's going to tell you like, hey, sorry, you can't use this name. Someone else in the region already claimed it. But in my case, let's just click Next and try to deploy it. Oh, I feel like, did I skip a step just now? Apologies if I have. Okay, not yet. Okay, I have not skipped a step. So click Next and click Next again. It says here, click Next again. Okay. Now you're in the final review page. Scroll to the bottom and select the checkboxes. So in the checkboxes, let's go tick, tick, tick. Okay. And all of these checkboxes are basically saying that you're giving AWS CloudFormation the permission to create these resources. So these are all good with us. We'll just click Submit. And now it is creating. There we go. So now what's going to happen is this piece of code is basically being uploaded, and now AWS or a certain tool in AWS is opening that piece of code we uploaded and going line by line and saying, okay, we need to do this. Okay, configure it this way. Create this, configure it this way, configure this. Okay, cool. So it's going through your code line by line and deploying it once it's ready, once it's finished reading your file. So this honestly takes a little bit of time. Okay, it really does. So while we're waiting, what we could do is we can tidy up our documentation template. So with my documentation template, one thing you could do to tidy it up is, set up your name, your profile photo across here. I'm going to swap this so you can see my entire half of that screen. And then you can notice that you can actually just delete this text box. It is just here to ask, do you want to use your LinkedIn URL or your GitHub? Make sure to change the photo, etc. So, change this to your GitHub repo. So for me, it is Natasha is okay. Use your GitHub repo account name. I'm sorry, your GitHub account tag, and then upload your photo. So let's go into my uploads. Find a photo of myself, which is a little bit embarrassing, but we gotta do what we gotta do. Do we have a photo of myself here? I'm gonna quickly find it. Okay, yes, we do. And put that in here. Boom! There we go. Now the photo of you is in the frame. And you can always double click on it to even drag, so it takes up more of the frame. That looks much better. So let's just drag this across so it fills up the frame nicely. Very nice. And a little hack for you, if you haven't tuned into this hack yet, is, you can copy this entire thing, press group, and then copy it as a group. And then now when you're in, the other pages of your template, you can just do this, right? Overlay it on top. Now that the placement is right, you can delete what was underneath it by going layer, send it to the back, okay? And then delete this top layer. All gone now, and now that this is the only one here, copy it again, and then paste and replace all of the other instances of this little kind of profile panel in the other parts of your template. So handy, so handy. Just like that. You were able to replace this with your own image and your own name in literally a minute. So good. Done. Oh, now it's done. Okay, so I'm going to check on my CloudFormation stack and just see if it's all ready now. Is it ready? Shall we find out? Create complete. Phew! It is done. It is ready for you to see. So are you ready to see your piece of code turned into like a bunch of resources that were all deployed for you at the same time? Oh my goodness, let's have a look. So head to your Amazon Lex console. Let's find Amazon Lex console. And click into a BankerBot that was already created for you. This is not the bot we created at the start of this project. We deleted that bot. This is a new bot that was just updated a minute ago that was deployed by CloudFormation. It read your code, it read your YAML file, and it deployed it straight away. Same goes for if you click into intents. Wow, all the intents are created for you already. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that cool? I think it's pretty cool. So screenshot your screen showing your amazing lineup of intents that CloudFormation has already deployed for you. Apologies for the typo here. It's just you're the amazing. But let's screenshot it and then paste that in our documentation template to finish up. So let's take a screenshot of this. paste that in our documentation template. Looks good. And then we can delete this text box. We don't need this. There we go. Nice. All right. So shall we try to test this chatbot? Is it going to work? Let's find out. So connect the testbot alias with a Lambda function. Select the one with v2 in the name. So this is referring to what we've learned back in part 3 actually. So if you're wondering, oh, what's going on here, please refer to part 3 of the project. But we're going to connect testbot alias with a Lambda function. And then make sure we're selecting the one with v2 in the name. So this one has v2 in the name. Select that. And then save this. Okay, so our alias has now been connected with our function. And let's test. So let's get started with testing our bot. In bot versions, I guess we can just pick any version. I'll just go for version 1. And let's test it, shall we? So we will test it by clicking test here. And then associated alias live, sure. Confirm. And let's start testing this chatbot. Do you think it's going to work? This is literally just deployed by CloudFormation. It wasn't done by us. So it's really cool to see it, get ready, get deployed and ready for us to test so quickly. So let's say hello. Oh, it's taking its time. But it works. It says, hi, I'm BB the banking bot. How can I help you today? The classic closing response. And we'll say, check my balance. For which account would you like your balance? Savings. For verification purposes, what is your date of birth? So again, this is the check balance intent at work. So I will just put in a birthday. Intent check balance is fulfilled. Again, it is not able to give us a satisfying dollar response, dollar response being like, oh, $50 is in your check balance account. That would be satisfying. That would be pretty cool. So troubleshoot this by creating a new Lambda function, inserting the code, and then redirecting your alias to connect with that new Lambda function instead. Can you do that? So you'll notice that this is looking a little less step-by-step guidey. And it's because it is a secret mission. We do have to up your game a little bit. So there's a bit less guidance, but let's do it together. All right. Let's create a new Lambda function by traveling to AWS Lambda in our console. So in our console, let's search for Lambda. And I like to open new services in a new tab, especially if I know I'm going to go back to the old service later. So I've opened it in a new tab here. And yeah, look at that. It's already deployed 2 functions for us, but both of them aren't exactly working. So how do we troubleshoot this? So, let's just create a new Lambda function and start from scratch. Function name, BankerBot English. And the runtime should be Python 3.12. Insert the code that's already given to us. So we just have to copy all of this. Again, if you're like, oh, we're moving a bit fast, it's because we've gone through these steps before in part 3 of the project. So I'd highly recommend checking that out if you haven't yet. And yeah, let's click on create the function first. Anticipation. Okay, our function is created now. And let us paste that code in, this bad boy in here, and deploy our code. Very good. So we've inserted the code that we've just downloaded, from here. We've just pasted that in here now. And now next we are needing to redirect our alias to connect with this new function that we've just created. So let's do that. So again, in Amazon Lex, let us find our version 1 alias. Oh, we don't have a version 1 alias. We should be looking for live, which is the alias name of version 1, the version 1 bot. So what we'll do is we will now attach this alias with the function we've just created, because we know that this function works. Okay, we've used it before in part 3 and we know it works. So let's use that instead and make sure it's connected to the latest version of the function. Let's save that. Okay, nice. So it is saved. Does check balance work after doing that? Let's find out. So let's go into our intent. And there we go. This is open for us now. So what we'll do is, it'll say here that English US has not built changes. Yeah, so it's telling us that, it's detected that there's been a change. It's detected that you have connected it with a brand new function, an AWS Lambda function. So it needs to build to incorporate those changes in your chatbot. So we have to build now. While that's building, have a look at the next few steps. So the next few steps says, does check balance work after doing that? If it doesn't, and you get hit with a denied access issue, do you think you can challenge yourself to, okay. That gives us a hint on what to expect, doesn't it? Yeah. Very cool though. And while that's building, you can always use this build time to tidy up your documentation, by the way. But in the meantime, it's already done building. So let's test it out. So what happened just now was, it said intent check balance is fulfilled. That was the issue we wanted to fix. So let's just jump straight into that intent by saying, check my balance. We're going to be straightforward today with our chatbot. Check my balance. For which account? So it's saying the right prompts, which is great. Checking. For verification purposes, what is your date of birth? Let's just put in a random birthday. There was an error. Oh my goodness, there was an error. So why is this error exist? Again, let's troubleshoot an error, because this is like what Arena mentioned before. This is where your learning is really happening when you're trying to troubleshoot an error. Okay, I've just pasted that error in here now. But let's have a look at why this error exists. It says access denied while trying to invoke the function blah, 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 blah from blah, 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 blah. Okay, please check the policy on this function. So what it's saying here is that there is access denied issue. So it's saying that this is a permissions issue while invoking Lambda function. And then this is an ARN. And in this ARN, they exposed that the name of the function was Nextwork BankerBot, Lex v2, etc., etc. So it is saying that the function with the Lex v2 name has denied us access, which should trigger a little bit of a kind of thing to you, because, well, that wasn't the function we just created, was it? No. The function we created was called BankerBot English. This function is called something completely different. So this should give you a hint that, what happened was it was actually trying to trigger the function that CloudFormation deployed. Well, that's not exactly the function we want you to trigger, though. We're wanting you to trigger the function we created just now. So how do we fix this? We fix this by going back to our aliases. Aliases are where that connection between your chatbot and Lambda exists. So let's find the alias responsible for this and fix that up. So to figure out which alias is responsible, you can just check here from ARN, etc., etc. So ARN, a Lex resource called bot alias. So a Lex resource with the bot alias, blah, 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 right? So we know that whichever alias was being used, whichever alias is connecting with that old Lambda function has this as their alias ID. Okay, that's some information we can use. So I'm just going to copy that as a reference point so I always have it. But if you ever also want to figure out, oh, which alias was it that is using that, you can always find out from your bot as well. So you can go into bot versions, and then you can go into, version 1, and then it will tell you, version 1, there's the bot name, there are the languages, and then under languages, they also tell you things like the status, it was last built, it was last edited at this time. Doesn't tell you what alias is in here though. So where can you find the alias? Can you still see it? Aha. You can see your aliases here. It's right here. And then let's click on live, which I believe was the alias we tried to edit just now. And click on English. Oh, hold on. It is connected to the right one. What's happened here? Well, what happened was, if you zoom in here, the ID is ZCU6VV9PRL. Okay. Do you still remember that the error message, the red error message, also had an ID in there? I copied that ID. Let's paste it here and compare that. It's a completely different ID. This is not even the right alias that's being connected to the intent that the bot that we were testing out just now. We weren't testing the right bot, basically. But let's say that we just want to connect this with the right function, the updated function we just created. If that's the case, let's jump to the other alias that exists here, which is called testbot alias. And aha, it has the ID TST alias ID. And if I were to paste here, okay, sorry, I just realized I made a small mistake here. This doesn't match, but where it matches was the end of that error message. I realized I copied the wrong part of that error message. My bad. But let me fix that, my quick error now. Let's go back to the test window. Do you see here? TST alias ID. This is the actual ID of the alias we were wanting. And you can match that up with the alias that you see here. So, let's just paste that. That was the ID that we found in that red error message, and this is the ID here. So, okay, now we're matching it up. So what was actually happening was the bot we were testing was actually this testbot alias. It was actually the bot that was connected to this alias. So we would just have to fix that by going into language, and then fixing it here. So let's fix up our connection, fix up BankerBot English. So now it's reflecting the function we just uploaded. Save that change, and let's try to test it again. Do you think it's gonna work now? Let's find out. So let's go back to our bot. And let's test it. Oh, refresh. Don't forget to click refresh to test your bot. And let's test it again. So what we've just done is we have made sure that both aliases of our chatbots are connected with the very function we just defined that we know works. So hopefully this is working now. So let's go check my balance. Let's test intent again. Arena says, yeah. For which account would you like your balance? Savings, random birthday. Aha! Somehow this error still exists. So we know for sure now that it is using the right Lambda function. Look, the function ARN has updated from that random function with Lex v2 in the name to BankerBot English, which is the function that we defined. So why is it that access is still denied? Please check the policy on this function. We are going into, as a heads up, we are going into a bit of an advanced place now with this project, but this is what the secret mission is all about, okay? So please don't feel a bit intimidated if you're like, oh, wow, like this is getting a bit tricky. It's designed to make you feel that way, these secret missions, to kind of push you outside of the comfort zone a little bit more. So now that we're still getting hit with a denied access issue, do you think you can challenge yourself to, one, find the permissions tab in your new Lambda function? So let's do that. Let's head back to our Lambda function, and let's find the permissions tab. Can you see it? Can you see the permissions tab? Yeah, if you can't find it, here's a screenshot for help. It's actually under configuration, so slightly tricky. But in the permissions tab, there we are. We're at the right place now. Create a new resource-based policy statement that gives your chatbot aliases access to the new function. So what was happening there is you might have connected your AWS Lambda function with your chatbot, but that doesn't mean your AWS Lambda function actually gave your chatbot permission. It's like you're connecting it, but AWS Lambda's door is still closed. So let's open that door right now by creating a resource-based policy statement, right? And add a permission. So we are going to grant Amazon Lex the permission to use this function. So let's look for Lex here. Oops. If you can't find Lex, you click on Other, right? And then there's a bit of a helper hint here. Your statement ID should say my custom permission. Arena says excited. Me too. And the principal. And then your source ARN. Ooh, if you're wondering what is the source ARN, there's a hint given in your screenshot here. Okay, so your source ARN should have, the ARN for your Amazon Lex chatbot, but with that little star at the end, okay? So to find ours, you can actually just go straight into your chat, and you can see a very, very similar looking ARN statement here. Copy that, paste that in here. Again, notice that there should be a little star right after bot alias, okay? So we're going to replace that. If you're wondering, okay, why are we putting a star in here? A star, when you're writing ARN resource statements, a star basically means anything covered by the scope. Okay, so in this case, we are saying anything covered by the scope basically means any bot alias. Any bot alias is now given access to this AWS Lambda function. So choose an action. So now it can invoke the function, right? Running the function is basically called invoke. So we will click on invoke function, and let's save this. Phew, that was a few steps, wasn't it? But let's see if our function works now. Check whether your check balance intent works after giving this a go. Right, so let us repeat this and see if we can use our check balance function now. Check my balance, please. For which account would you like your balance? Savings. Birthday, let's add that in. I can never get tired of this feeling. You can't get tired of this feeling of solving a problem, like solving an error. It just feels too damn good. It really does. So it's worked. It's worked. So congratulations. Thank you for sticking in here like with me, solving this problem. We have troubleshooted this error. And, as a summary, how we got to the bottom of that error was really reading that red error statement and saying, oh, we should check the policy for our function. So we went into AWS Lambda and we added a policy that allows your Amazon Lex chatbot access to that function so that the door is going to be open between Lambda and Lex. And once that's open, Lambda is now throwing all of those account balances over to your Lex chatbot. So now it is all fixed. That's a relief, isn't it? But it's good to know that it works. Good job, good job. High five to you. So now we can, head back to our documentation page and, fill in the prompts to finish up our documentation for today. All right. AWS CloudFormation is a service that helps users deploy AWS resources in seconds by defining the resources and their characteristics, maybe, in a code file called a YAML file. That's what it's called. As an extension to this project, because you did that, okay? I learned how to deploy the entire BankerBot using a single CloudFormation stack. Yeah, so we just uploaded that YAML file. It was all in one stack and one deployment. And all of that BankerBot was pushed out into your account. Doing this took me, I think, 3 or 4 minutes to wait for deployment to complete. But we also took 1 minute to set up the CloudFormation stack. But my goodness, that adds up to about 5 minutes, which is a lot faster than the time it took us to repeat, parts 1, parts 2, parts 3 of the project. So already you can see the huge benefit of having CloudFormation. Something I learned from deploying with CloudFormation was, what's something you learned from this? For me, something I learned was that you can deploy resources from all different AWS services in the exact same YAML file. I find that pretty cool. You don't have to do, oh, here's a file for the chatbot, here's a file for the Lambda function, etc. You could just do, here's my file for this project, and it contains everything, even if they're coming from different services, even if they're getting deployed through different services. So I thought that was pretty cool. In terms of this, you could totally create a new page to document that error. So what I do is I just duplicated this page. So there, I now have 2 error pages. And, I would totally just write about this other error because it is a very unique error message. So I would do that, I'll put it here and type out my thoughts, my learnings from that error too. But yeah, that pretty much wraps us up with the secret mission. But can you tell me what is the very last step that we haven't done yet to wrap this up? Can you tell me? I'm all ears. The thing that we're still missing is that we still haven't deleted the resources. So CloudFormation helps you with deploying it all en masse. And I almost feel like one of the cons of that is that sometimes I forget to delete it because this is still stuff you need to delete, even though you weren't very hands-on with creating it initially. So to do deletion, let's find CloudFormation. Let's head back and look for the stack we deployed. So this was next with BankerBot Natasha. This was the stack. And let's try to delete it. So let's just click delete here. Delete. And this is going to take a while. So delete is initiated, it's in progress. But you might notice that I went straight to CloudFormation and deleted the stack. So that means all of the resources that were in that CloudFormation stack just gets wiped in an instant. You don't even need to go into those individual resources to delete them one by one anymore. You just have to delete the CloudFormation stack that helped you with deploying them. Again, a huge time saver. So that was great. Yeah, so exactly. No need to search around your console and delete resources one by one. Just delete the stack. Next, delete your CloudWatch log group. So that's the one thing that's not covered by your stack, because do you remember what are log groups? Log groups are basically records of your AWS function being used. So is that part of your CloudFormation stack? No. Your CloudFormation stack did not define that you are going to have a history of this. Like, it didn't. It just gave you a template for the resources you were going to deploy. But it's a byproduct, of testing your chatbot. It's what gets produced on the side as you test your chatbot, and that's not something that's a part of your stack. It's something that gets created organically every time your chatbot returns to you a bank balance figure. So that is not covered, in your stack. It is separate from the stack, so we have to still delete that manually. So let us find a free tab that lets us delete that, and let's head to CloudWatch to delete it. And you can go into CloudWatch and find log groups in your left-hand navigation panel. Let's find log groups. Do you see it here? And in the Actions dropdown, select the checkbox next to your CloudWatch log groups, and then delete it. So we have quite a few log groups here. So we can delete all of that. So I'm just going to delete. These are the 3 log groups that were created because of the AWS Lambda function. You might notice this last one. That's not related to this project, I don't believe. This is related to another project that I'm secretly building on the side. So we'll just ignore that. But in terms of log groups relevant to this entire project we've been doing, it would have been the top 3 that we can delete right away here as well. So let's delete it. Phew, that was fast. So all of that was deleted now. And I think we're almost done. What you can do is you can check in on the progress of your CloudFormation stack. But it is going to take a little bit of time, for all of that to be deleted. So I might leave it here. As you continue refreshing, you're going to see this blue turn into a green to say completed. And you can even click on this little link called Stack ID. Actually, Stack ID just takes us to the exact same page, but you can click on events and it will tell you, literally live, it will tell you, it will tell you the status of all of the things that are being deleted. So you can see that there are some that are blue and some that are green. The blue ones are like the delete is still in progress. The green is like, it's already deleted, it's done. So you can see why the entire stack is not done yet, because we still have some in progress. We're going to have to wait for those to finish. But yeah, in terms of our project itself, we're all done. We have wrapped up our documentation by already replacing these icons when we were waiting for one of our chatbots to build. And yeah, you can definitely spend that extra 10 minutes. I definitely recommend it to go through these pages and add in your own reflection points on, what is Amazon Lex? Why is it useful? What were my key learnings? And any final thoughts I have. There are also prompts to show you what are some things you could mention to make this a very valuable piece of documentation. But in the meantime, all done! Woohoo! High fives all around. Good job. So you can always share your work and let people know just what an amazing job you did. So you can do this by sharing your PDF to the project page in the Nextwork community. So I demonstrated this just earlier in this call, but to download it, you can click on the share button here. And then there's going to be a download button here. Ooh, that did not expand the way I was hoping it to expand. But you can click on the download button. And then under file type, make sure you have PDF standard selected so it turns into a PDF document. And then click download. And you're all sorted. And then a PDF version of your documentation is going to pop up. Very, very good. Very, very easy. And you can just share it in the project page in the community. So you can click on that link and you get taken straight to the community. And in our community, you can add a comment and let us know that you've done the project. That would be awesome. Next will be, first you can merge all of your documentation across all 5 parts of this project, but you could totally share it on LinkedIn. And it'll make for a really, really great post to just share with your professional network. This is what I've been learning. This is some awesome documentation I've created. And yeah, it's a great way to also put yourself out there as someone that's learning about cloud computing. It's cool. Raf in the chat has asked, do I have to always delete my project anytime I complete a section? For understanding purpose, I don't think can use one day to finish the entire project 3. Yeah, so exactly, Raf, because project 3 has 5 parts to it, there is going to be a step about deleting your resources at the end of every part. The reason for that is if you're not sure when you're going to pick up this project again and continue to the next part, you will need to delete it so you don't rack up any charges. Let's keep this project free, and you will keep the project free by always deleting at the end of whichever part you're on. If you know you're going to spend just one day to go through 2 parts at a time, 3 parts at a time, then of course you don't have to delete at the end of each part. You can delete at the end of your 3rd part, your 2nd part, or whichever part you finish on before you wrap up for the day. But just make sure that you do delete by the time you log out of your account or by the time you stop your project progress for the day, so that you are making sure that you don't get charged. It all comes back to that. If you're happy for your account to rack up a few charges or just be in the risk of racking up charges, then you can absolutely leave your resources in your account. It purely is just best practice to delete everything to keep the project free. Don't cry. It's okay. I promise that recreating what you've done from the previous parts gets so much easier the second time you do it. You got this. Trust in yourself. You got this. All right. So that is a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you so much. Here is a list of all the skills you learned just from doing this one project. Hello, look at this list. That's a lot of skills, okay, for one project. I'm just saying. And you have outdone yourself, you champ, to make it to the end. Thank you so much for joining us in today's project. I can't believe it's a wrap for the Amazon Lex Chatbot series. It has been a wild ride, I feel. So many things that's happened within this one project. I think it's awesome that you've made it this far. I hope to see you in the next one. The next project is all about security. It's all about managing, enhancing your account security using AWS IAM, and I hope to see you there. So I will be finishing the live now, and I hope to see you in the community. Thank you so much, and we'll continue the conversation there. Bye for now. I'll see you in the next stream as well. Thank you, Arena. Thank you so much. See you in the next project. Thank you, Raf.